There was nothing on the market good enough, punchy enough to get my consultants billing quickly in tough markets. Nothing that engaged my consultants, keeping them hungry for deals. Nothing that kept them sharp. See, no one was as good at training my people as I was. But this took a lot of my time. What was available for my senior consultants? How could I maximize their revenue? There was nothing on the market that truly made my people feel invested in, that I would be comfortable putting them in front of. So we made it. Find out why people are joining the RecWire Plus recruitment platform. Link in the show notes. Back to the show.
All right, welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. I'm joined by Chris Allaire from Verity Consulting. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm not so bad. I'm based here in the south of Spain, so not far from Marbella. And the sun is shining, summer's approaching. It's all good. What about yourself? Where in the world are you?
So I live in about 3 years ago, transplanted from New York City to Greenville, South Carolina, for to try to get out of that northeastern weather.
Yeah.
So it's not quite southern Spain, but it is also, the sun is shining, summer is approaching, the birds are chirping, and we are, girls are about to finish school. So looking forward to all the fun things that come with summer vacation, travel, and all that kind of stuff.
Did you start recruitment in New York?
No, I started recruitment in Boston back in the late 90s. I started my company at Verity over 11 years ago in New York City. So I've been around the block a little bit when it comes to, I've done the staffing all over the country.
Yeah.
So started off many different offices all over the place.
Maybe let's just start just at that journey of setting up by yourself in New York. That's a bit of a dream for people, isn't it? That to make it in New York City, to be an entrepreneur in that hustle and bustle and the challenges of it. And how did that come about? How and walk us through that journey before the pandemic.
So the story is, I was moving to New York City in, I think it was like 2006 or 2007. And I got a random phone call from a guy that I used to work with in San Francisco, back in, 10 years prior to, or something like that. It was back in the early 2000s. And kind of pitched me as like, hey, I want to start my own staffing firm. I want you to be my partner. I want to go in this with you. So I kind of was like, all right, cool, let's do this. So that was in 2007. New York is either you're built for it or you're not. And the reason I say that is business. The nice thing about New York is business. And, everyone's kind of on, everything moves very quickly. You're very direct. You get a job to do your job. It's not a place for slouching. It's not a place to lie, cheat, and steal. No, although people like to try. Your reputation is very, very important. It takes a long time to build your reputation. And if you're one of those, I would call like kind of the masochists out there, which I am, you enjoy, you're definitely going to take to some beatings out there. But if you look at them as all as opportunities and stepping stones to really kind of prove yourself, and you take it seriously and you're really good at it, you can do extremely well, to a point where when it came to building my own company, I'd say probably 75 or 80% of it was referral based, or people that I've known and built trust with over the years. And at one point, when I was first building my company, I had people talk to me and say, first of all, it was about time. Like, I've always loved working with you, Chris, but a couple of the companies you've worked for have kind of been dog shit. And I remember that thinking to myself, like, you know what, this is now the time is to take my own personal brand name and go out there and really kind of do this thing. And so that's, kind of the short version of building the business in New York. Hustle, work your butt off.
How did you go about winning business? What part of tech was it?
I'm sorry?
How did you go about winning business, and what part of tech was it?
So I was focused on software engineering, and I was focused on open source, specifically open source technologies. So I saw where it was going in 2008 when the financial markets really started to crash.
Yeah.
I kind of got ahead of the curve on that a little bit and got out of working with financial companies and started working with media and publishing and areas of that business. And they run a different technology platform. So most of it was open source based, or at the time was LAMP and PHP and stuff like that. And I started doing a lot of reading and talking to a lot of people about it, and really started doing a lot of networking. And I started really getting into it. So, this is back in the cold calling days. I just smiled and dialed and started getting CTOs and VPs of engineering on the phone, talking about what they're looking for. I had a couple of really good candidates that I had met, and started really building my name in the open source marketplace, specifically in the media space. So I got really ahead of the curve. So by the time the financial collapse really hit us in 2009, I already had, I don't know how many off the top of my head, but I had a lot of paying clients that they got hit by it, but they weren't nearly affected as, Merrill Lynch or Citibank or Lehman Brothers and, all these massive organizations. So, they were building all these huge publishing and media platforms. And I already knew what was going on, who was doing it, how they were doing it, the technologies involved with it. So I just, my whole philosophy in business has always been find something you're good at and do it better than anybody else. So I've been a big fan on narrow and deep, not broad and shallow. So I've always been focused on very specific type of technology within the software engineering world. So open source back-end software development was my forte, and I owned the market in that area.
And how did you build your teams? What type of people did you attract, and what did that look like at its peak?
I hired salespeople. So when I look for people, when I hire them, I don't look for people that have a recruiting background, believe it or not. I've never been a fan of. I find out that the recruiting industry is one of the big reasons I started my company. The recruiting industry is very broken. There's a lot of churn them and burn them. There's a lot of, these mentalities of, used car salespeople and all this kind of jazz out there. And I really hated it. So my biggest thing is I want to hire authentic, genuine human beings that have work ethic, know how to talk to people, and are genuinely good people, like good humans. Those are skills that can't be taught. I'll teach you the X and O's of the recruiting business, right? I can teach you how to draft an email. I can teach you how to, negotiate, all that jazz. But the key aspect of the recruiting business that a lot of people forget, it's 100% people industry. People hire people. All the letters and acronyms and all that stuff you read on resumes are just words and doesn't, so you need to be able to talk to people. And when you're talking to people, you need to build trust. You need to build a name brand. And if people trust you and listen to you and believe you, you're in the driver's seat. And when you genuinely, authentically care about what's going on in these positions, you can do you can do really well, and you can separate yourself. And that's what I've been able to do out there. So when I hire people, I look for authentic people who have really good stories to tell, who understand B2B sales, who understand ups and downs of business. And I will teach you the recruiting business. And the people that have worked for me have been nobody in recruiting. We're talking real estate, financial. One of the guys that works for me was a financial analyst at Prudential. I had an attorney. I've had, if I go around, one guy was in sales, but he was as a soccer coach for the Red Bulls in New York, and he did something else for the Red Bulls as well, managing people. People from all walks of life and backgrounds, but nobody from recruiting. There's one guy that works for me who's been in recruiting, but I've known him for 30 years, so it's kind of a different story. But I've always been a fan of hire amazing human beings and then teach them the game.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question some of our listeners might be interested in. One of the businesses I have is I run a community for 1,000 recruitment founders. A lot of them have scalable companies based in the UK. Some have offices in the US. A lot have aspirations to get into the US market. If you were based overseas and you were thinking of launching an office in New York City. How would you go about winning business and getting that book together?
Find a market. First of all, find a targeted market that you know you can become an expert in.
Hmm.
After you figure out exactly what that market is going to be, and I mean like specifics. Don't aim at the broad side of a barn. Aim small, miss small.
Yeah.
So if you want to be in hedge funds, right, you need to pick either a sector or buy side, sell side, right? Or if you want to be in tech, software engineering versus security versus something else. Those are all very different marketplaces. So you're not going to be successful walking in being like, I place people in finance. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's a massive marketplace versus like, I place backend C++ software engineers that work for hedge funds on the buy side in New York City. That is now an audience that is still pretty large, but you can narrow it down now. And what you're going to have is a very narrow market where you can start to build your network, where you will be talking to more or less the same people all the time.
Hmm.
And when you are constantly hitting the same people all the time, a couple things happen. First of all, you're in sales, that's your job. But they realize that you don't go away. Number two, they realize that if you're always pitching them something that you know for a fact that they will need sooner or later, they will start to take you a little bit more seriously. So find your market, attack it relentlessly, early, often, all the time, and then always add some type of value within that given marketplace, whether it's a technology, whether it's news, whether it's, hey, I read about this, are you guys doing that? And what you're going to find is that people will start to take you seriously, and they're going to start to look at you and be like, this guy knows his stuff and he doesn't go away. So I should just start talking to him. And that was the way I did things. I told people all the time, I was like, you should just say yes to me because I don't go away.
Yeah.
And I'm
How,
an expert in this. What you do is what I do, and you need me.
yeah. And with modern day, is it still as easy to get on the phone and get these people to answer, or is there do you advise a multi-pronged approach or?
Oh my God, it is so different now than anything I've ever seen. You need to be as creative as possible getting in touch with people. I mean, we're talking phone calls, emails, video emails, voice messages through LinkedIn, video messages through LinkedIn. I mean, I'm doing all of those things. I have learned to love the voice message memo and the videos that you can do on your LinkedIn messages
Yeah.
because they're different and it puts my name in front of them versus like, I get blasted by AI emails all day long. We all
Yeah.
do, right? And I'd say 95% of them are a bunch of crap. They all look the same. They're all like, hey, did you read my last message? Like, no, I deleted that one also. And then after I'm annoyed enough, it's like, you're going in the spam box.
Mhm.
Now, I still get a lot of voicemails from people. I returned one this morning because this is like the fifth or sixth voicemail he's left me. And I realized that if I don't just call this guy back, he's never going to go away. So I returned the voicemail with a voicemail. I was like, hey, I've gotten your messages. I get bombarded all day long. Let's set up a call, right? So here's somebody else. So you have to be super creative with the way you're getting in touch with people between voice, between video, between I get video emails that are really interesting as well. And we do all this stuff to all our prospects. And obviously like anything else, some of it works, some of it doesn't, but it's not the same as it used to be. So
And
your hit ratios are about the same, which is
yeah.
surprising enough. Being raised in the culture of cold calling,
Yeah.
smile and dial. I mean, I'm talking 500, phone calls a day. The phone was stapled, literally taped to my hand, or like just stapled to me. And those were, I mean, so your success back in the day was still about that 1%, 2% maybe. So our success pattern is still about a 1 to 2%, but our outreach is
It's bigger.
is so varied now.
And let's say you're doing that. Um, would you advise to really push for a face-to-face meeting in New York, or, do you have to assume that people are very busy, or
No, I
no?
everyone's busy. Everyone has stuff to do. Obviously, you're the client, so I want to make sure that I'm aware of your time. The hybrid model in New York is back. So 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week at home. Typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, you're going to be in office. Mondays and Fridays are at home. So a lot of the times, if I go back to New York, which I do frequently, I'll go back. I'll land on a Monday night and I'll book myself in meetings all day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I'll come home on Friday. The reason I do that is because that's when I know people in their office. If I try to book meetings with people on Friday, it's hard to do because everybody's kind of working from home, and from home is, Brooklyn, Queens, Connecticut, Deepwood, New Jersey. So you're all over the place. But if you're in the city, I can grab coffee meetings, lunches, drinks, stop by an office real quick for a half hour. So I've really never had any problems. I push for face-to-face meetings with everybody I do business with, even if it's just to say hi. If it's, hey, let me buy you a beer, whatever it is. I very rarely get people who are like, no, pound it.
A friend of mine used to stay in the lobby of a big company, and he would just, be like, "Can I bring you a coffee?" And he would just go up, bring them a coffee, get the meeting, because he said they're just so busy that. But if you can just get that tiny bit of face time, it'll make a difference.
Yeah, a lot of the meetings that I have when I'm back for FaceTime are scheduled weeks out.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, are you around right now? It's like, dude, right now, no. But like, hey, I'm gonna be in the city, from these dates. Send me your calendar link. Everyone has a Calendly or TidyCal or all these other calendar links right now. So I'm like, great, send me your calendar link. Or I like get in touch with if I know they have an assistant or an admin or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Hey, put me on their calendar for a quick meeting. On pick a date and time.
And well, if you're NPC and a candidate, and if the client comes back and says, yeah, I'm kind of interested, should you push to get terms at that moment, or should you start getting the ball rolling? It seems like people get stuck on this chicken and egg scenario on the negotiations.
Terms are they're standard. Everyone's got terms, right? I mean, terms are really like, can we do business together? Yeah, let's figure it out. My philosophy with the terms are like, let's figure it out later. I'm like, the most important thing is this. Do you have an open job that I can work on? Does this person going to be a fit for your organization? Let's get introductions going before anything else.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I want you talking to my candidates, because so if I pitch a candidate at you, like I've got a candidate I'm working with right now, and typically that's the way I get a lot of business. Is like, listen, you guys are in the ad tech space. I know a senior manager coming out of Meta who runs a 15-person team, ML and AI based $400 million ad tech unit. Would this person be of interest to you? 90% of the time, it's like, yeah, I'm interested in that person. It's like, great. Do you have an open job, or would this be an introductory call? Like, I don't have an open job right now, but I'd love to talk to a person like that, see what's going on. And I'm like, great. So let's focus now on setting up a phone call or meeting or whatever it is between you and my candidate, right? It's either product or service in the sales world. Product is a tangible asset that you can touch, feel, look, smell, breathe. Like that's reality. Service is rhetorical, right? Show me you have something that interests me, and I want to, and then we can talk later. But if you're just going to sell me this rhetorical service about everything you're going to do for me, and you're going to solve the world problems for me, and all this kind of stuff, it's like, listen, man, I don't have time for this. I'm not interested. Show me something tangible that I can touch, and then I'm like, I'll take you seriously after that. Yeah. That's the way I do business. That's what's always been successful for me in almost 30 years of what I've been doing, what I do. So I start with a candidate first. Why? Because like that's what you need. So you know what? Don't worry about me. Well, you talk to my candidate. Hey, great. Can you send us over our terms? I'll send you over our standard MSA. It covers full-time hires. It covers contract hires. I have a retained MSA as well. It's a 8-page agreement that our attorneys wrote because, someone's got to pay for their house in the Hamptons. So, here it is. You're going to look at all these things and you're going to be like, great. It looks the same as every other MSA you've seen. It's a bunch of, it's some percentage points. It's this, it's that, and the other. But more importantly, talk to my candidate. So I'm pushing for the interview, the meeting between the client and the candidate. And then after that, everything, then the rubber hits the road. They talk to my candidate and they turn around. They're like, this guy's like legit, man. We need to talk. That's when we can start negotiating. But to agree to 25% or 20% or 18% or 30% or whatever types, that's hard to do. So I don't, I'm always one of those people who's like, listen, talk to my people. Let me put my money where my mouth is. Everything else is a really good sales pitch.
When you have success, do you stay in your lane? I've seen some people do this successfully where they open up a big key account and then they just start trying to fill everything because they've got the staff to. You say no, do you?
No way. Don't find something you're good at and do it better than anybody else. If you try to do too much and you fail, that is now your reputation. However, if you give, if I'm a baseball player, right?
Yeah.
And you give me a baseball, I'm going to do really, really well. But if I'm a baseball player and you throw a basketball at me, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to fumble it, whatever the terms are. I don't play basketball, but
unless you're Michael Jordan.
Exactly. So that's the thing, right? I mean, be Michael Jordan. Don't be, right? So find somebody. So I've been in environments where they're like, give me your hardest job to fill and I'll fill it. And I'm like, what? Out of your mind? That's ridiculous. Yeah. Versus if you give me a back-end Go engineering role to fill, I'll fill it for you in 5 days. I'll show you 3 candidates. I guarantee you're going to want to hire one of them, maybe 2 of them.
Yeah.
That's how good at my job I am. Now, if you need a senior marketing analyst, I'm like, I don't know. It's not what I do.
When you're sourcing, do you keep it to New York or do you go nationwide?
It depends on the client. 99 right now, I'd say probably 95% of our business is hybrid Manhattan. Mm. So, I don't, again, the broad side of the barn versus be specific. I like working with New York companies who have an office in New York City. I know where people live. I know where they work. I know where they eat. I know what's going on. It's an easy sell. If you've got an office that's in Bryant Park, I'm like, that's a simple commute. I know where all these, it's easy that. And it's it's easier to screen people out, it's easy, or to screen people in for that matter. No, screen people in. Like, hey, listen, you dying to get out of your apartment in Manhattan. I know it. Get to the office 3 days a week. It's not that big a deal. And most people are like, yeah, that sounds great. If you're on a national level and it's remote, I mean, it's too much. It's that's like getting dropped off in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, being like, great, find a fish. It's like, well, what bait do I use? What kind of fish am I going for? You got to give me something more than that. So I'm like, no, I want New York City, hybrid, in the office, very specific needs and roles that we work on. And I want to be successful. I want results. This isn't a hobby. I don't do the spray and pray. I don't, hey, tell me what you need and I'll go find it. All right. Margarita on the rocks. Yes, sir. That's not what I do. I'm like, listen, if you need this, I will fill it for you. If you need that, you need to talk to somebody else. That's not what I do.
Let's just talk a little bit about your team. So you managed to build up your team in New York, 2008. You got through that. You scaled up again, and we get to the pandemic, and that changes everything for you. It changes the way you operate as well because now you're fully remote. And so, walk us through that period, and how you adjusted your leadership style, your management style, to the people that you hire, to how you get the best out of them, to how you look to get back up to the number that you were at before?
Um, talk about challenge. Anybody who's ever started your own thing, you want to talk about some challenges. This was one. So to give everyone an idea, so I'm built an office in Manhattan, and my philosophy is like, we're team based.
Mm-hmm.
So I have different teams that handle very specific niche technologies. So I had literally 3 teams in an office, 3 teams of 4 to 5, something like that. And I'm one of those people who's like, you're in the office, we kick off at 8:30, you leave when you're done. And that's that. You don't work remote, you don't work from home. If you're working from home, you're sick. If you're sick, you're not working. Right? So that was my philosophy. I had a huge office space, full floor building on 36th and 5th. We were having networking events. We had parties. We had
Must have been great
clients.
fun.
People were taking interviews in our office because they needed a place to talk. So we had candidates coming in. We had an office, like a little, like candidates couldn't interview because they were like, I can't take an interview, I'm at work. So they come over to my office. We got a little phone booth thing set up for you. So fast forward 2020, everyone goes home and we never come back. So the things that I were critical that I'm great at, I will say this, is the idea of remembering what your culture is. So I'll start there because it's an interesting thing. Culture is not ping pong tables, Guitar Hero, Hawaiian Shirt Day, Pizza Fridays. Those are perks. Culture is a belief system. It's your service. It's your attitude. It's your genuine belief system of what the company stands for. When I was building the company, that's always was the first and foremost front and center thing that was instilled in people. Was the company culture is how we operate. We outservice. We go above and beyond. I've been awarded the best company to work for best staffing company to work for in North America twice. And I was runner up once. So you get there by instilling a culture of service, a culture of belief, a culture of teamwork, a culture of connection, collaboration. When we went remote, we were able to grow and thrive because the culture of the company never changed. It was just how we communicated and collaborated was different. So we did more Google Meets. We're a Google business company. So we did, rather than Zooms, we did Google Meets. Slack channels. We did, things to constantly keep people communicating with each other. An open meet link that was come and go as you want. Like if you just feel like connecting with people, pop into the office kind of thing. So we had, everyone had screens and all this kind of jazz and popped in where you felt like it. As we grew, we took some lumps too in some people, don't get me wrong, but as you're hiring people remotely, that's where it goes back to hiring, goes back to who you're hiring. You're hiring humans, not skill sets. So real humans, authenticity, my word is genuosity. People who understand, and I don't like when I'm interviewing people or I'm kind of the final stage of the process, I just lay down the laws. Like, here's the rules. This is what's going to happen. These are the Averity laws. Okay.
What are the laws?
I've got a handful of them, but basically the laws are, number one, celebrate your big wins. Understand that this is not a hobby. This is your job. You don't have to come here. You get to come here. Treat everybody with respect. Sell something all the time. Teamwork is kind of I know it's like the corny thing, but teamwork is the dream work, right? But it really is if you're team first, you will win. If you're, I want to be the MVP on a losing team, go work someone else. I've always said, this is an open door company. You don't want to be here, open the door and get out. You don't do me any favors. Okay. If I don't like you, I don't like the way things are going, there's an exit strategy. You're gone. Okay. If you want to be here, show up to work. Those are the rules. If you're remote, you're remote. I don't care. These are the rules. Follow the rules. I never said you had to work from home. We just work remote. So if you want to go to Hawaii, you got a job to do your job. If you want to go on vacation to Hawaii, find someone else to cover for you. You're an adult, be responsible, right? Now, did we have people who took advantage of it? Yeah. There was a person who worked for one of the guys underneath me who literally just disappeared for days and get a call from one of my VPs, directors, or whatever his title is. Like, we can't find, we can't find her. And I'm like, well, is she okay? It's like, well, I have no idea. I'm like, okay, well, let's make sure nothing happened. We're like, and so kind of the emails, I'm like, hey, we haven't heard from you in days. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Like, emergency happened to come up, no communication in 2 days is kind of like, that's a lot for us. Like, for you, are you okay? And got, the response was like, oh, we had a last minute trip, actually, ironically, a last minute trip to Spain. Like, what do you mean no, you didn't. Like, what? Like, look at that. Like, you didn't have an all of a sudden trip to Spain. Like, you didn't wake up Monday morning at like 7 a.m. and be like, you know what? I think I'm going to go to Spain today. So that didn't happen. So if it did, cool. You still need to communicate that. But so you had this trip planned, and this is back when you had to this is during the kind of there's still the travel periods. We're still working for people, right? Traveling was not as easy as like just buying a ticket and going. Like, this is during the 21 so the pandemic era stuff. So I just was like, you know what, you're fired. I'm like, that's it. We're not doing this is not the way this is going to shake down. Like, you broke the rules. You broke the laws of engagement within this organization, and this is your consequence. So you're no longer part of what we're doing. And those are the times I've only had to really reprimand or get involved with people. Performance based, never really a problem for me, to be honest with you. I think everybody was they knew they needed to do a job. KPIs are not something I'm a big tracker of. I don't really believe in KPIs. There are certain things that you need to do in order to do your job, but they're going to be different for everybody, right? Now, my KPIs are different than yours. For me, if I submit somebody, there's an interview that's going down. So my submittal to interview ratio is like 1.1. Someone else's might be 3-1. So you need to know your numbers from that standpoint. So, if you're looking at numbers and you're like, this person's good at the job, not good at the job, you can do that. But the idea is like, well, if you're doing your job, how do we get your numbers to be better? That's a performance thing. That's cool. If you're just flat out not working, you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
So those are the times I was like, dude, you show up to every meeting 5 minutes late. You're the last one in the door, and you're the last one to show up and the first one to leave. Guess what? That's not what we do here. Go get a nice salaried W-2 job, at a company with 4 weeks of vacation. Go do that. Don't show up here anymore. So guess what?
That was my next question. So when you hire people, they're in on their own contract essentially? They're not full-time salaried people?
Everybody I hired up until recently was salary benefits, 401k, matching, every perk from a compensation standpoint you can think of. Aggressive commission structures, team bonuses, company bonuses, profit sharing, all that jazz. It was great. Not a big salary. Definitely if you're in sales, 90% of what you make should be in commission. If you're in sales and 90% of your weight is on salary, that's a problem. So I'm like, your base salary is a draw, and it's the only reason you have it is just to kind of make sure those bad months, you're okay. But if you're here for the little shitty draw I'm giving you, that's not why you're here. So we had the whole thing. That's it. The last couple of years, I've made some adjustments to make sure that the cash flow and the profit and loss of the company is safe and secure. So I've had to make some changes recently, but those are only recent changes. Are they gonna be like this forever? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is my team is pretty happy with the arrangements, the way they're working right now. So I haven't heard any real complaints from anybody yet. So, and they're all still here. So
that's good.
We're going to leave. They've left by now. So now that they're independent consultants, they're happy folks.
Very good. So you've managed to de-risk your business from those monthly costs of a big office in New York, of paying high overheads on salaries, and you've probably managed to do the salary piece because you've been able to feed these people or help them feed themselves for such a long period of time that you build up that trust, and there's a good chance of success to do that. It's very hard for somebody to do that fresh off the bat, to attract the right people in and to get them to that stage. It's a nice position. It's a nice position to be in. Do you think do you plan to scale it up from here? And maybe could you talk a little bit about the current market and what it's some of the challenges of being in tech at the moment?
So I'll start with the challenges, and then we can I can hit the scaling thing. Challenges. What we've seen over the last, basically since 23, since college January 23, right? So go back a couple years here. There was a massive balloon. There was a massive bubble in the tech space. I mean, the salaries were outrageous. People were leaving jobs, getting 40% increases in pay. I mean, like, if you didn't see this, anybody who's been around like the housing bubble from back in the day, I bought a house 3 weeks later, it's worth 30% more than what I bought it for. So I'm going to flip it, make a ton of money. And then that person's going to flip it again and make another percent. It's like, this is not sustainable. Writing's on the wall. Everybody should, we just wait, ride this wave, wait for the bubble to burst, and then see what happens. Same thing happened from the pandemic through the end of 2022. Leave a job, get a 20% increase in pay. I just feel like leaving. And then people were getting, $30,000 raises because the supply and demand is all skewed. So that built itself into this massive bubble. Bubble burst. Now, when the bubble burst, I knew anybody could see this coming. I didn't think it was going to hit with the thud that it did. So when layoffs started coming, this was when you just looked at it, you're like, we're going to be here for a while. So it's kind of, this is when you just charge the storm. It's like, we're going to be here for a while. Settle in, think smart, look at your numbers, look at your, and if you've been planning for a rainy day, guess what? It's raining. So kind of the old, I remember
looking at it at the time.
When winter comes, like, what are you going to do? Like, so
just to think of some of the compounding things that happened. Elon went into Twitter and ripped it apart and said, you're a waste of time, you're a waste of time, you're a waste of time. We can run this way leaner. The exact same time, AI came in and went, we can actually get rid of all of this on top. So you have the compound of all of those things happening. And that just then obliterated the internal recruitment market, which was way inflated, as you mentioned. And then we're in this position where nobody knows what's happening next.
You nail on the head, man. Yep, that's it. So cutbacks and AI, and automation kicked in, and all of a sudden automation took over and AI took over. So we're going to do cutbacks. So investors, CEOs, and VC firms went all in on AI. Now, the interesting thing is, if you ever asked them why, there was no answer. This has been the fun part. So this is where we're kind of leaning into where we are now.
Mm.
So for years, VC firms are like, we're going to be all in on AI. And CTOs, VPs of engineering, they're like, okay, neat. Like, do you even know what AI is? Like, language, yeah, it's automation. It's amazing. It's going to do all our jobs. We're going to have robots take over the universe. So investors aren't tech people. They have no idea really what this stuff does. They just know how to push money around the table, and I get 10% returns over here. So this is what's going on. CTOs are like, dude, like, you realize how much money it costs to build an LLM? It's pretty expensive, right? Not only can we're not set to build these things, to run these things on the back end processing power that you need, we don't have it. The other things we don't have are, like, you understand that if we turn this over to like AWS instances, this thing is programmed to find problems. If this is hitting AWS, like, our AWS bill is going to go up 100x. So this is what's going on. So no new products. The only services that are coming out, if you think about it, really the last couple of years, have been AI-based agents. Typically, one or two people go off and they start their own thing, and they basically tie together a bunch of the different AI agents that are out there between Claude and ChatGPT and Apollo and this and that and the other. So they figured out a way to tie them all together through APIs and all those really cool things that they do. And they built was agents. Now the agents are fun. Like, we all have ChatGPT. If we don't, we should, right? ChatGPT, we're besties. It just gets me, type in anything I want. I talk to it, spits out all this really cool things to me. I've got another system that we use internally at the company. It comes up with my tasks. It incorporates my calendar. Really cool stuff, right? The tide has moved out on all that. Like, we're there. It's okay. So now that that's been implemented, what's next? What we are seeing now is organizations that have actually said to us, like, we've done all we can do. We haven't done anything in 2 years. We haven't built any new products. We've slashed as much as we can to make the bean counters, the CFOs, the controllers, all those people, like, so when you're building a business, you have zeros, right? You can so to make the numbers work, you can either add zeros or subtract zeros. Now, subtracting zeros is easy. Something that you mentioned earlier. You get rid of all your guaranteed costs, get rid of your salaries, get rid of your office space, cut some vendors. All the guaranteed costs that you used to have are no longer there. Cool. Great. So now I've made that line item look neat. Now what? So we've gone through 2.5 years of like, dude, are we going to like do anything? Are we going to actually make any money? Because we're not making any money because we're not building any new products. We're not offering any new services. What we are seeing now in the market is like, shit, we need to start building some stuff again. We need to start doing things, building new products, building up URLs. Like, social media's, that ecosystem sucks. We need to get out of that into something different. So people are starting to realize, like, the shakeup and the wake up is now like, let's not rely on, the same thing we've always done. We don't rely on the internet. We don't rely on social media. We don't rely on AI. Let's use it as a tool to our advantage, and let's go redo this thing. So what we're seeing now are, talked to a CTO a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I had a team of 5 engineers. I had to lay them all off to make the bean counters happy. He's like, Chris, I haven't hired anybody since the pandemic. I don't even know where to start with this. I got to hire the 5 people I laid off. I have to hire similar skill sets again, because we're now guess what? Now we need to build products because we need to add zeros because we have no more zeros to subtract. So what do I do? And I'm like, so I'm talking over, like, this is what people are doing. This is what they're looking for. This is what they're making. This is what hybrid really is. This is what remote really is. This is the lay of the land in our modern day landscape, right? So we're starting to see things really kind of move back. So state of tech, last couple of years, effed up, weird, confused, driven by a lot of FOMO, to be honest with you. Just a lot of like, oh, we need to get AI. And people are like, why? We're Stop and Shop. And it's like, well, because they have AI and they've got AI and you've got AI, and it's like, okay, cool. So we've moved past that back to like, we need to start building some shit again, man. And let's start making some money. So we're starting to see a lot of that. We're starting to see a lot more large companies that realize people don't understand like the amount, like this AI and automation and LLMs and stuff like that, they can't be used everywhere, right? And there's a lot of organizations, like a lot, that look at it and they're like, there's no way we can use this. Like customer facing, sure, we'll make a chat bot for customer service. Okay, that wasn't that challenging. But if you're a utilities company and you've got 32 million customers, like you're not switching systems anytime soon.
Yeah.
These things need to be built around, robust, maintained. And now what do you have? More customers, more data centers, more like it's so the business is always there. It's a matter of how it's been managed, how you're doing it, growth. We're gonna get back. It's been the correction's been a long, hard, interesting process. I have learned more about who I am, about what I wasn't doing well. Back in the heyday, it's all I look at this and I'm like, man, I really wish I had done these things 3 years ago, because I probably would have been able to manage that situation differently. But you know then what you know now, right? Or if I knew now what I knew then, et cetera, whatever the way that expression goes. So are we going to get back? Yeah. How are we going to do it? Honestly, same way we've done it. Highly specialized in teams. Find something you're good at, do it better than anybody else. Use our tools to make you better, not to use your tools to augment the tasks that take up a lot of your time. Like that's why you have these tools, not to do your job for you. And if you think these tools are going to come in and just do your job for you, well, then why do you have a job? That means you literally have just shown me that you're completely obsolete, and you've now rendered yourself useless. So,
last question: are recruiters still going to be around in 5 years' time?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just the more I see it, the more it's still a people business. You still got to hire people. I don't care what anyone says. If you have an idea, and you want to go to launch, the first thing you do is find people to build it for you, build it with you. If you don't find the people, all you have is a bunch of ideas on cocktail napkins. So is recruiting going to be around? Absolutely. Is the landscape going to change? Yep. I've been in this business for almost 30 years. I've seen everything imaginable you can think of that will replace recruiters, right? LinkedIn, Dice, Monster Board, right? What happened? Recruiters are still around. Those job boards are now obsolete, which I find even hysterical, because who uses Dice anymore?
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a great interview and really helpful to anybody who's interested in launching in America.
Thanks. I appreciate the time.